Big Book in 12 steps. Isn't that what it's all about? It's a 12-step program. We always forget that. You know, people come in, they have all kinds of ideas of what to do, and all we have to say is it's a 12-step program. But these 12 steps, which I have here, are based on all the religions and philosophies of the world. If you really ever read any religious books, any Judeo-Christian, Eastern, Western philosophy, we even have prayer, meditation, what more could you want? You know, actually, people come in this program who are very so-called, quote, religious, and they said they've been a member in the clergy or whatever it was for years, a rabbi, minister, priest, whatever it is, and they said it was only going through these 12 steps that they had that true spiritual awakening. And if you look in the lobby, I had let go of human comfort. And this is what's really interesting about the human comfort and how it's related to our addictions. And a lot of people here for the food, how it's related to our food addiction. Well, it works like this. The way we relate to food is how we relate to everything else in life. So in our big book, it talks about the answer to all our problems. And food obviously is one of them. And why did they make gluttony one of the 7 deadly sins? Think about that, gluttony. Also lust, pride being number 1. The way we relate to food is how we relate to everyone and everything. We're making food our higher power. Is that the way you want to be, in that finite understanding that life is all about this material thing, food? A lot of people look for money. They look for money and food, drugs, alcohol, all of these things, all kinds of compulsion, gambling. The whole point is that we're taking our higher consciousness and making it very finite and becoming a slave to the ego. We can't be happy, joyous, and free that way. And I haven't used this example in a long time, but many of you heard of the man who climbed Mount Everest, and he went through all of that pain and misery for years, and he spent all of his money. He climbs up, he gets frostbite, finally gets to the top, what he wanted to achieve for his whole life, and he had momentary pleasure. These are the things, it's like pleasure but the only thing was, it was worse on the other side, because when he came down from the mountain, he realized other people climbed it many more times than he did. So then he was miserable, and he had to think about it and go and save all the money and go through the whole thing again. Meanwhile, where I heard the thing was at a meditation center, the guy in the front there, he was the real deal. He had the robes and everything. He said, look, I could sit here on my couch and be just as happy. He says, but not only that, my happiness isn't momentary like all pleasure is. He says it's eternal, blissful. The source is within, and we get centered, pray, and meditate. We find that source. So it's directly related to our addiction. Directly related. I didn't understand how these 12 steps and all of this stuff, how does it relate to my addiction to food? It is. It's the answer to all our problems, and the way it is this. We're making food that momentary pleasure. So we can have, if we let go of the human comfort, then, and I had used an example, we were talking about it right before the meeting, I said, how come people fast? People fast and they have these religious and deep experiences because they realize it's a material comfort, the food, and it's taking them away from their spirituality. If we eat in moderation, just to explain that, look, you don't have to go fasting if you don't want to, but if we eat in moderation, but as soon as we gorge ourselves with money, success, food, alcohol, drugs, we're making it all about that. And it's a never-ending pit, and it goes on, and it's taking us away. It's called the lie, knowing the truth from the false. The falseness of it is that we're making a false idol, a higher power. So the whole thing is this. We do have a way, and it's called in the big book, if you heard the expressions, the 4th dimension or the 6th sense. Don't forget, food is of the 5 senses. When we get rocketed into that 6th sense, and when we have that indwelling feeling, we get our happiness, joy, and peace from that. And then we wait patiently. Even if you have thoughts about food and you get that hunger, you can patiently wait for that higher consciousness. And you heard in very religions, patiently wait for the Lord or whatever it is to come in that indwelling spirit. But we bury it with the ego. The ego wants more food. It wants more success, more people liking me. I always start the meeting. Sometimes I'll say, I'm an alcoholic and compulsive overeater, and I want people to like me. It's all the same thing. So it's all the relationship to life. Are we going to come from the material? And don't forget, again, they put gluttony in as one of the 7 deadly sins, along with lust, pride, greed, all of these things. And in our program, and we can have that spiritual awakening right here, right now, towards the food. On page 64, it says, if the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. You get that, the spiritual malady. And also, now let's go to page 85. Starts in 84, the bottom of the page. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. We could put in their food, or even people. We're always fighting people, right? What's the way out of that, right? We'll react sanely and normally. So do you react sanely and normally towards your food addiction? Do you relate sanely and normally when somebody tries to get in your face and push your buttons and tries to get an argument? I know I always used to want to win the argument. I always figured I could explain to them and let them understand how I think I feel. But the new pair of glasses, same with our addictions, all of these things. I have a new perception, sanely and normally. Having love and compassion for the person rather than being upset with them. We will see that our new attitude towards liquor, towards food, has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. This is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. Listen to this. We feel as though we have been placed into a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem had been removed.